If you're wondering if we've hit the bottom of the Bitcoin market, the Pi Cycle indicator has flashed the bottom. We'll be reviewing its past performance, and I'll be telling you how you can use this indicator to your advantage. Unless you win the lottery, success doesn't happen overnight. Julius Caesar once said, "Patience pays off." And patient people use the Pi Cycle top indicator. The Pi Cycle indicator was created to detect the top of the Bitcoin market cycles. Look into bitcoin.com and they are providing a number of resources to help you understand how to trade the markets by giving you insights. And this actual Pi Cycle top indicator was developed by them. So here they say the Pi Cycle top indicator has historically been effective in picking out the timing of the market cycle highs to within 3 days. It uses the 111-day moving average and newly created multiples of the 350-day moving average. When the 111 crosses the 350 moving average, that's when the Pi Cycle top indicator will flash and say that the market has peaked. Press F for respect. So for you to be able to use the Pi Cycle indicator, you should go across to tradingview.com and you should ideally load up the chart for Bitstamp because they've been operating for years, and be on the daily time frame. Then you go and load up the indicator and you search for Pi, and you want to load up this one called Pi Cycle Bitcoin High/Low. So on the 13th of July this year, it actually flashed for the Pi Cycle low, and previously on the on the 14th of April, 13th of April, it flashed the last Pi Cycle high. But remember, the indicator only claims to be accurate within 3 days. So it did go a little higher, but still in a long time perspective, you would have done very well if you sold at this Pi Cycle high. I do think it was possible in November to December to have had a second market peak, but I think extreme circumstances cancelled that. If we look previously as the third halving, which definitely accelerated the previous bull market run, and quite nicely here on 16th of December 2018, the Pi Cycle low flashed, and that, when you look at a long-term perspective, was very accurate. So if you had bought on this Pi Cycle low and sold on this Pi Cycle high, you would have done extremely well. And then we have again the infamous 2017, the one that wrecked me before, December 17th. I remember exactly what I was doing that night, which is not a good thing. So the top was the 17th, and I knew to sell, and I didn't sell because I was drunk. Right. So 16th of December, it flashed, and it was very accurate again. If you had bought on the previous low, which would have been way back in 2015 or January 2015, you would have done very well again. So historically speaking, the Pi Cycle indicator has been extremely accurate. So now we're in a situation where the Pi Cycle has flashed its low, indicating that the Bitcoin market has reached the bottom. So how can you use this to your advantage? Well, if you look at the previous market cycles from low to high, you can kind of like estimate how long it will be. So let's say if you bought on this floor, so it's 849 days. So if you bought on this cycle low and sold at the high, but you did wait 849 days, you would have won. You would have won successfully on this strategy, or you would have been very successful at using this indicator. So let's say we apply the same logic, and I'm not saying this is going to become reality because we have no idea when the next Pi Cycle high will be flashing. So we have to wait perhaps 2.5 years. So it's maybe 2014, 2015 could potentially be when we see the next market cycle high. Now, obviously, that's I'm not saying that's when we will see the next market cycle high. I'm just saying that this price cycle is used to show the market cycles. So if you want to buy now, you must be ready to wait 2 years, perhaps 3 years before until we see the end of this current market cycle. And then we go back into this stage where we get the high, and then we want to wait until we hit the bottom. So if we look back again, so if you had purchased in 2018, December 2018, in this market cycle low, if you never sold your asset until 12th of July 2021, you will have made a guaranteed return. You will be very rich. So it's important that you only invest a sum of money that you never ever need again. And heck, even if it's only $100, if it's $100 for you that you know you're never gonna need to touch, and you'll be absolutely fine for the next 2 years, 3 years, then go for it. So if you buy in now at this current cycle low, and you can invest a sum of money that you don't need to use possibly for the next 2 to 3 years, then you will do very well. Of course, if you actually load up this indicator into your chart and follow this indicator daily, you'll be able to see when the actual next market cycle high comes in, and when that confirmation comes in, that is obviously when you want to sell. So I'm just saying, like, if you use this price cycle indicator, you have to wait a long time. So if you're just new and you're thinking like, okay, so now I'm late, like I didn't manage to buy in at, what was it, around 20k, and right now the market's at 22.968. If you buy now and you obviously don't use leverage, just be ready that it might drop down again to 19k, but you don't know that because you're playing the long-term game. You know, the returns of 19k to 70k, and who knows, maybe in this market cycle we'll see 100k, we'll see 250k, we may see even higher. I don't know. So it's going to seem completely insignificant when you sell at the next market price cycle high that, oh, you bought in right now at $23,000. It's going to seem completely insignificant. So that's the price cycle indicator. It's confirmed that we have recently hit the market low. If you buy now and sell at the next cycle high, you will do very well. Remember to only invest what you can afford to lose, and that you don't need to touch for the next 2-3 years, and only sell at the next price cycle high. You might like the video that's on your screen now. Like this video or leave a comment.